Big up everybody. If you can see my face. Hey, let me try and get a bit closer so that you can actually see me. Oh, no, you can't see me now. Oh, there you can see me now. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Sports Centric, where we're going to talk about Arsenal and Man City from yesterday, and we're going to talk about Wrestlemania night 2. And as your host, if you can see my face, there you go. You can all see me now. I'm going to take you through my thoughts and reflections, and please leave your comments in the chat so that I've got some creative feedback. That way I can make the channel good for myself and for you as well as the person watching it. Right, anyway, let's start with, let me see. We'll start with the football first. So we're going to talk about Man City versus Arsenal. Now, first things first, on a rational level, I'm going to say this is now 5 years coming up now where Arteta has been given £1 billion by Arsenal's board to try and win something. And yet, he hasn't won anything in that time span. Now, as a Spurs supporter, I'm going to say the problem with Tottenham Hotspurs is that we don't buy the right quality players for the manager. At Arsenal, it's the other way around. They actually buy the quality level players they need. You just have a bad manager that when the time comes to be inspired for the players, I find, he's uninspiring. And it's been the last few, and if you want to know when I felt that way, is when Tottenham played Arsenal under Conte. And that match was basically for 4th place. And Conte outwitted him on the night. And from that moment, I looked at Arteta and on the dugout on the sidelines. And he was left whatless, to be fair. And there was nothing he could do about it. When you look at football, it's the ultimate game of chess. To try and outfox the opposition, try and outfox the other managers, the opposing manager. That's what you're basically doing. And if a manager's got, if a manager that is right, if you look at the way Arsenal play, they're very contained. They don't score many goals when it's not a set piece because the way they set up doesn't allow free-flowing football, if you can understand what I'm saying. And that's from the way that Arteta has withdrawn himself. It's a bit like when you watch England play under Southgate. While Southgate is more defensively minded than Arteta, there's still the same kind of thought process. If we can just nick a 1-0 win, or we can hold out for a draw, that's a good result. That's not the mentality to have when you go into a game of football. At the end of the day, it's a competition, and it's the two teams on the pitch. Go out there to win. As a fan, that's all I can ask for, is to go out there and leave it all on the line and try and win. And when you look at the Arsenal team against Liverpool early in the season, can Arsenal fans say that Arteta went there to try and win? Yesterday, he had Eze play on the left-hand side. Now, Eze, for me, is better on the right hand, or is better in the middle, where he can orchestrate from the middle of the park, carry the ball forward. And that's the kind of player I would be looking at when I look at Eze. But when he's on the left-hand side, he's heavily restricted because he's not a left winger. Now, for me, Arsenal's problematic position is on the left-hand side. They need to buy a good quality left winger. Now, the World Cup is coming up in June and July. So there are going to be some proper left wingers out there. Will we see Arsenal actually move for one of those in the transfer market? And as an Arsenal fan, how much do you look at Arteta and think, you're paid £15 million a year, and yet 6 years you haven't won anything? When the time, it's all good to win in November and October, November, when there's no pressure. But when now in April, what is his record like when there's pressure at the time? It's not very good. That's because he can't handle it and it's the same as Tottenham Hotspurs in that aspect. When the pressure hits here, Arsenal fold. And it's the same way Tottenham fold. And it's not a slight on it, it's just the facts. Well, that's how I see it anyway. But please, people in the chat, put your down comments so that I can have your feedback on it. But like I said, Eze on the left-hand side, I think that restricts him because he's more contained on the left-hand side and he's not influenced the game as much. But if you play him as a 10 or as an 8, I think that way you get more out of him as a player because I think he's more industrial and he can picture the game in his head. And this is how I remember him at QPR, I'm able to drop deep and run at the opposition. But then this is modern day football and it seems to be round pegs and square holes is what managers like. And that's a bit weird to me, but it is what it is at the end of the day. The fact that he left Gyökeres on the bench and only brought him on in the last 6 minutes, I believe, is even more worrying because that to me tells to me Arteta didn't really want Gyökeres in the summer. I think he wanted to get Sesko. Now, Sesko ended up at Manchester United, but that's the profile of player that Arteta wanted. So that means there was a conflict of interest between him and Berta already. Please put your thoughts down because I believe that's the case that happened in Arsenal this last summer. But we'll see how it unfolds. Anyway, if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be looking for Arteta's head. To be fair, you've had a big enough point lead this season. Manchester City haven't been the same Manchester City as before. Liverpool have dropped off, and this was the Arsenal's chance to shine. Because for years, we heard if it wasn't Man City, if it wasn't this, if it wasn't that, well, Arsenal still can't get over the line. But we move on to WrestleMania Night 2. Let's just go there because I don't want to be... Right. First and foremost, let's start with Night 2. Night 2 was much better than Night 1. Night 1 was heavily predictable. You could actually see the outcome of it. The storylines going into it weren't up to snuff for me anyway. But Night 2 had so much more potential, and in some aspect, it lived up to it. Now, big up Hagee for this one. The first match of the evening was Oba versus Brock Lesnar. Big man meet, as they would say in the wrestling business. Two big giants coming together, and it's exactly what we got. Brock Lesnar hit Suplex City. Brock Lesnar hit F5. Oba hit his power moves, but the F5, let's just say when Brock Lesnar hit the F5, most people go down from the F5. Oba Femi just basically landed on one knee. Even before Brock Lesnar turned around, there he was, Oba Femi, the ruler. And he just gave him a fall from grace. And that was it. And it was a changing of the guard, to be fair. Oops, sorry, we've got comments coming in. Let me just check. Oh, I can't see. Sorry. Oh, struggle with this one. All right, please leave your comments if you've got any comments. All right, anyway, I digress. We were talking about Oba versus Brock Lesnar. Yeah, the fall from grace and then the 1, 2, 3. After the 1, 2, 3, Brock Lesnar took off his boots, took off his gloves, and left him in the ring, symbolizing his retirement. Fair play to Brock Lesnar for coming back for the last match and realizing it was time to move on, but it was like a changing of the guards, him basically saying that the ruler is now the beast. And for that alone, and for picking up Obart and making him come across as a strong character, fair play to Brock Lesnar for doing that on that aspect. Now, match number 2, and this one is for Paige. Wow. Everyone in that match, from Penta to G-Von Evans to JD McDonough to Ray Mysterio to Dragon Lee, all performed to the best of their abilities, I believe, in this match. Each one of them had the opportunity to go for the Intercontinental title. There was even a moment there where you had the luchas from the past in Rey Mysterio, the present in Penta, and the future in Dragon Lee. All 3 of them in the ring together. So it was a Kodiak moment. The dropping the dime from Rey Mysterio to Rusev on the ladder outside was a heavy spot, and it looked painful at the time. But that was nothing compared to what Penta did with the Canadian Destroyer on JD McDonough from on a ladder to a ladder. Like I said, each man had the opportunity to go and reach for the title. And in the end, G-Von Evans, who also had a stellar performance, I must say this. Please leave your comments in the chat. Please leave your comments after the chat. I'm sorry I can't see anything at the moment in time, but if I can see them, I will respond to them. I just can't see them at the moment. But I digress. I go back to the point in my hand. Oh, I think I can see something now. There, that looks a bit better. Let's hope you change. Right, anyway, I digress. And when you see G-Von Evans reach for the title, Penta came in and essentially gave him a Canadian Destroyer before reaching up and grabbing the Intercontinental title on top of the ladder. That match had to be one of the matches of the evening. And it had the billing to be, because there was so much athletic angles and so many different high-flying athletes in there, as well as Rusev with the power game, to be a match contender of the evening, and so it lived up to it. The next match was Jade Cargill versus Rhea Ripley. And that match lived up to... That match had a strong storyline going into it, because you had Jade's New Nasties, which is Meechim and B-Fab. And then you've got Io Sky alongside Rhea Ripley. And B-Fab and Meechin had a massive part in the contest themselves. And they were heavily involved in the contest in Jade's side until Io Sky came down, took out the New Nasties. I'm going to call them New Nasties here, because what Jade did back in AEW, she had a group called the Nasties. And essentially, with Io Sky coming down, it gave time for Rhea to recover on the outside. Rhea then came back into the ring. What was astounding in the match here was the amount of counters for the finishing moves. Because if you watch, Rhea goes for the Riptide, Jade slips behind her, goes to deliver Jaded Edge, Rhea slips between her legs, then delivers the Riptide, and that leads to the 1, 2, 3. Now that's the kind of stuff that we used to see, like in SummerSlam '92 with Bret Hart and the British Bulldog. That kind of finish there, where anyone could have won, but we didn't know at the time until Rhea came through with the Riptide at the end. But Rhea Ripley is now the new SmackDown Women's Champion, essentially. It's sad in that aspect, and Jade loses the title, because Jade, I'm a massive fan of Jade Cargill. Like I said earlier in another video, I'm a massive fan of Jade Cargill. The power, the athleticism, the dominance that she has. It's just but on this occasion, Rhea came out on top. Fair play, Rhea Ripley. The most disappointing match of the night, and I had a feeling it would be disappointing, was Trick Williams versus Sami Zayn. Now, Trick Williams is a showman, and believe me, when he walked into the ring with his let's just say his attire, it stretched the length of the runway all the way back, and it was like a wedding bell, to be fair. But as he stepped out, you could just see he was a showman, and the match was flat in the aspect of I had a feeling that Trick Williams was going to win. And the fact that Sami Zayn only just won the title a few weeks ago on SmackDown's kind of devalued the title, because it's like they didn't want to switch it from Carmelo Hayes to Trick Williams. They wanted to do it through Sami Zayn. And in a way, Carmelo Hayes not being on the card, especially with the way that he's been performing on SmackDown, it was a kind of disappointment to him. But it is what it is. And at the end of the day, Trick Williams beat Sami Zayn and is now the new United States champion. So that's 2 title changes already on night 2, which is better than night 1 already, because there's some unpredictability about it, which makes it more of a ventured interest for fans out there to see. Now, the match after that I'm going to talk about is Finn Balor versus Dominic Mysterio. Finn Balor, the demon Finn Balor, allows him to live out his inhibitions. And so he did. So many high-octane moves. And it was announced before WrestleMania Night 2 that it would be a street fight. And let's just say the outcome of it was quite unique in the fact that Dominic Mysterio hit all his moves and Finn Balor, the demon Finn Balor, just kept coming right and rising up again. He hit the 619. He hit the frog splash. And yet the demon Finn Balor still kept going. And to the point where the demon Finn Balor put a chair around Dominic's neck, delivered the drop kick into the corner. And if you hear the sound of this chair as it snapped back into the corner, it was not nice listening to that. But it was enough to put Dominic down for him to deliver the coup de grace onto the table and picking up the win. Now, if you can see my chest, I'm going to talk about the OTC, my man, Roman Reigns versus CM Punk. Now, match of the evening, storyline of WrestleMania 42, and so it lived up to it. Each man had the opportunity to go for the win. Each man left it all on the line. CM Punk delivering the top rope through Roman Reigns with an elbow drop on the outside. And the announce table, you had Roman Reigns, you had him hitting the GTS. Roman Reigns kicked out the GTS. Oh, yeah. Roman Reigns delivered a spear. CM Punk kicked out the spear. Roman Reigns hit another spear and a Superman punch. CM Punk kept kicking out of both of them. But the last one, Roman Reigns hit both ropes in the middle, came through with a spear, and is now the new World Heavyweight Champion. The Tribal Chief is now the head of the table with his belt back. Well, one of his belts back, because the World Heavyweight Championship for me has always been sold in the fact that the first ever champion of that, which was Seth Rollins, I believe, didn't beat Roman Reigns to get the title. Now, to be the champion, you have to beat the champion to do it. To beat the man, you must beat the man, which is what Ric Flair used to say. And for me, that's why the World Heavyweight title didn't have the gravitas. But now Roman Reigns has the title. We're hearing talk of them doing a Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns next year at WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia. That's what we're hearing at the moment. This could be a possibility. But then we don't even know. Do you know what? If WWE do this and do it in Saudi Arabia, is there a chance they'll take it elsewhere in the world, not just Saudi Arabia? Because if I was another country in the world, I'd be looking to have a WrestleMania too. Because we haven't really had a proper pay-per-view outside of America and in Britain since 1992, and that was a success. Because I remember as a child, yeah, growing up and seeing the likes of Bret Hart versus the British Bulldog in 1992 at SummerSlam, which is a match orchestrated and choreographed by Bret the Hitman Hart. It was a mark of artistic brilliance as well. So it'll be interesting to see the dynamics of it. But with that in mind, I'm going to say thank you very much for tuning in. And we'll see you next time on Sports Centric. Adios.